Yeah, what up, though? What's good, everybody, man? What's going on? It's your boy. It is I, Aaron Duncan, here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. Another Tuesday live stream. Give it up for me. I'm being consistent. 2 in a row means it's a pattern. 2 in a row means it's a pattern. Y'all know how inconsistent I am, but you know me. But I dropped a video earlier today. Hope y'all checked it out. I talked about the Panthers draft crush. It's Xavier Legette, y'all. Some of y'all may not like it. We're going to get into him a little bit later, but the signs are there. They done met him at every step of the draft process. He done went to his pro day talking about, they said it's a buzz in the facility. I mean, shoot. Y'all better get ready to learn Sandstorm. Hey, get ready to learn Sandstorm. But, all right, we in the chat. We getting busy in the draft. Probably going to be best one we had in the last 4 years. Dunk is 6 minutes late. Y'all got to hold me accountable. I apologize. John Myers, what up, though? My guy, Will Brown. What up, though? I know you'll be happy about Legette. That's your boy. Tristan Tyson, what's good, man? What up, though? Josh, keep pounding. What's good, bro? My boy, Mr. Luke Cage, what's good? You? What up, though? Rock, what up, though? Mikey Duke, what up, though? 33rd pick, Xavier Worthy. Y'all want the speed. Okay. I already talked to Mikey Deuce. Kel Beast Jones, what up, though? My guy, Low, happy birthday. Well, I told you happy birthday on the timeline. It was your birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, bro. You turned 33. You a couple months older than me. I ain't know you was that old. Shout out to 91, though. We in the building. Austin Wright, what up, though? What's good, bro? Chris 2030, what up, though? Rob Walk is in here. What up? Tyree, what up? Say you like Legette, to be honest. What's good, Chief? What up, though? What up, nephew? Aaron Johnson, what up, though? Did you watch Steve Smith's wide receiver evaluations? A few. I don't watch them all. I try to get my own opinion, and then I'll compare my notes. I don't want to get skewed, but I respect his videos. Legette is the next Kelvin Benjamin. Okay. Jamie Earl, what up, though? What's good, brother? Jamel Hall, what up, though? Hoping for AD to fall. Hey, I don't know, man. Hey, shout out to Ricky, man. One time for my guy Ricky. I gotta clap it up. So I put my tweet out promoting this, and then Ricky said, in the meantime, y'all need to watch Eric Duncan's other video. He plugged my video in the promo of this live stream. That's real, and that's love. Appreciate that. Bray, what up, though? We're gonna take some questions a little bit later. But I appreciate you guys checking in. Think we double dipping. Yeah, I mean, y'all know what happened in free agency. We're gonna talk about it, of course, but things have changed. We thought we had a chance for Chase Young. He's a Saint. We thought we had a chance for Mikey Mike. He's a Jet. You know, Clowney's still out there, but I don't think he's old enough to do the hometown tour yet. So I'm a little bit skeptical on that, but we'll see. But regardless, let's go ahead and get into this, man. So I have a special guest. Special guest. Last week I had a guest. It was one of the first collabs in probably years in this channel history. I had to follow it up with another knockout guest. This guy is a guy I respect very, very highly. First met acquaintance on Twitter. We linked up at training camp last year at Carolina. A guy that I really, really respect his opinion, admire his work. I value a lot what he says, so I had to get him on here to talk draft with y'all. Because y'all think I'm biased when I be looking at some of the stuff I see and I speak about it. So I wanted to get a third-party source that really don't care about the Panthers like that. They don't care about hurting y'all feelings either. You know, so I had to get somebody special, and it's my guy, Mr. Damian Parson, a.k.a. Full-Time Dame. I had to get him on the channel, man. Let's go.
What it do? What's up, everybody? What's going on?
Dang, what's good, man? I appreciate you gracing my channel with your presence, man. It's your time of year. We talked about it. It's like the playoffs and Super Bowl for you right now. I know you got your head down, you know, grinding the tape, whatever the expressions y'all use in y'all industry. But I appreciate you taking that time, man. How you been doing?
Hey, I'm in good, man. You know, it's definitely that time of year. You know what I mean? Everything's buzzing, trying to link up with agents and, you know, do a lot of research. Getting, you know, big thing for me is like watching the tape, evaluating the talent, figure out the character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, you you probably remember, and Mont remembers, like, Anthony Richardson was my guy last year,
Yeah,
and everybody's wondering like, why are you so high on him? And it was just like,
yeah,
man, you have that elite talent, and then doing the background I did on him and learning about the elite character, that's what sold me. Because my mentor, who's got in the league for 20 years, who taught me, was like, listen, the thing that you always remember, talent gets you drafted, character keeps you in the league. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, if a guy has some room to grow, what's the work ethic like? And once y'all look into, like, guys' background and who they are, I'm like, all right, now I can really paint that full picture and give my full grade and how I feel about it. So it's a busy time of year, but it's my favorite time of year, man.
But I want to talk about that though, because you talked about AR and you were on him early, obviously, and I think a lot of people, the public, kind of picked up steam around the draft. I mean, around the
Mm-hmm.
combine.
Yep.
Obviously, when it's certain dudes, and I talked about this with certain other guys, like you see them on the field, and you just see them in general. You know when they get on TV, when everybody start watching, not even just the test, but how they look without pads on, like. If you look big with pads on, you're going to look big without pads on. So I think AR is one of them guys that just came in there, a quarterback, looked rocked up like that ran for whatever, a crazy time, and just kind of
Right.
tore it up, spun the ball beautifully. And I think people started to realize, and like the buzz came out, that this dude could really, people thinking he's a 2 to 3 year project. People like, no, this dude has a chance to be a top 5 pick and a day one starter in the NFL. So like, I want to get your thoughts about like how it is. Like I know the public is one side and you're on the other side of it. Kind of you in the trenches. How does that stuff really work? Like you've been doing that legwork. Do these guys really buzz that early as you find them, or is it something that really actually builds over time, like the public finds out?
Man, with the scouts in the league, especially more like the area scouts, really know who guys are if they're in their region and everything, and then they take it back to their teams and they have those discussions, especially heading into the actual college football season. Like, hey, these are kind of the preseason grades and what we off the tape, going to the facility, checking in with the guys and talking to the staff and everything. So like by time we get to the season or by the time we get to the draft season, the scouts typically know who these dudes are already. They
Yeah,
already know the background, their
yeah,
GPS, their
yeah,
mom's name. They know everything. You know what I mean? And that was something else my mentor taught me. He said, listen, anytime you interview players and you got to something about them that could be troubling or whatever, he's like, always, he said, how I always approach it was like, listen, I would tell these dudes, I'm gonna ask you this question, but please act like I know the answer, because typically I do, because that's how
yeah,
much legwork goes into it behind the
yeah,
scenes, man. And I'll never forget, like, yeah, I was literally tweeting about A Rich, maybe
yeah.
August
Oh,
of that last year,
dang.
and people were like, man, like, are you high, you really high on him? Like, he hasn't started much. And I'm like, yeah, I'm high on the skill set and what I've seen. Now I want to see what he looks like as a full time starter. And what I mean, it was a bumpy ride, but I also understand you can't get too high or too low, no matter what happens, right? He has
Yeah,
a like elite performance against Utah, week one,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
he loses the next 3 games, right? But
yeah,
then when I, talk to teammates, I'm like, all right, talk to me about your QB. You know what I mean? Sitting down with offensive linemen, sat down, talked with kid that actually just committed to LSU, a four star quarterback recruit that he mentored. And he was like, man, like, I wouldn't be where I am without Anthony Richardson, man. Like, he took me under his wing and did so much for me and taught me so much. And talking to his old line, they're like, bro, I've never, like, this kid's special. And like things that we've seen in practice, people haven't seen in the game. And like, to hear guys talk about him locking in after losing those 3 games, getting ready. Remember that game against Tennessee and Hendon Hooker,
yeah,
knowing
yeah,
that Hendon was going to put up 50,
yeah,
right? And A Rich walked out of there with like 500 total yards and I think 4 total touchdowns. And he's like, man, we couldn't, old line was like, man, we couldn't stop a nosebleed in that game. But he was the reason why we were even in that game. He put us on his back. And that started on Monday at practice when we watched him actually lock in. So it's a lot of legwork. By the time the fans really know who's who, the scouts already know what time it is, right? Like
yeah,
the combine and stuff, like I tell you straight up, it's overrated. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I know a lot of fans don't like to hear it. It's overrated. Like the 40 time is completely useless for me. I couldn't care less about the 40 time because it's like, when are we going to see a guy in a track stance running down the field? You're not. The only guys you're going to see like that are defensive linemen. You're
yeah,
not going to see corners like that. You're not going to see receivers. You're not going to see running backs lined up like that. So it's all about just kind of understanding where like what happens on the field is what really matters. The testing and stuff, it's fun, it's cool, it's like barbershop talk. But truthfully, the tape and then everything behind it is what matters.
So with that behind the scenes stuff, you talked about the scouts. Just to kind of segue into the Panthers, obviously we had some changes to the front office. The head man in charge, Scott Fitter, was let go, but I think a lot of fans were kind of felt weird. Like, I mean, I'm gonna say a lot of fans. Me, I was one of them people. Like, I thought we were going to clean house. We were talking to assistant GM from the Eagles, from the Chiefs as well. I'm like, okay, these are winning organizations. Get their scouts to here, get those things. But we retained pretty much all the scouts. A lot of guys got bumped up. Our director of college scout, I think Cole Spence, he's still there. A couple other guys as well got bumped up. Pretty much it was a changing of the head guy in charge. It wasn't really much change everywhere else. And people think like, okay, hey, this feels like a scouting problem because I think somebody told me that since 2019 we've drafted 31 players and only 9 guys are still under contract. Horrible, and that's where we are right now, where we don't have a lot of cap. We had a terrible record, and we don't have a ton of draft capital because you blow these draft picks, and then you try to make up for it by spending in free agency, and then when you blow those guys, you have to cut them, so you have dead money on the book, so you can't spend that money, and this is just a vicious cycle. So yeah. I want to get your thoughts as far as the structure of those type of scouting departments on teams. Like, what can fans feel good about as far as Dan Morgan's change of philosophy? Is there much that can change, the fact that he didn't change his scouts, or is it just going to be more of the same?
Man, I think you feel. I think you should feel good about it. A lot of times, like turnover, especially late in the process, could like it's hard, man. I'm telling you, it's a difficult thing because a lot of the legwork is done by the scouts. So it's hard to fire that staff, bring in a new GM, bring in a brand new scouting staff where you're already in draft season, right? It's more so, to be honest with you, look for if there's any changes typically to be made. It's typically after the draft. A lot of times where you see it because you see, okay, because I know some of the guys, I know a couple guys, over in Carolina, and like you got to go meet with the GM, take your scouting report, meet with them one-on-one. Then you have your team meeting. They watch film together to get the final like big board and grades and everything locked in. So I think having that familiarity with each other and guys who, hey, I know how you see the game. You know how I see the game. The GM knows the staff as well. I think it could pair well because at the end of the day, I'll never forget. I'm not going to name the coach, but I was told, I remember I talked to one of my guys who worked for a very prominent coach in the league. And he was like, man, I hated working for that dude. He was like, because no matter what we put in our scouting reports, you can tell by the way he drafted, he didn't care what we had to say. So a lot of times, like it was just a lot of times it's not even the scouts, man. Like it's literally the GM because for me, with Scott Fritter, like, Mingo, I remember seeing Mingo, like, because last year, the Senior Bowl, he was there. That was my first year being on the sideline. Yeah. I remember me and my guy, Ray Garvin, shout out to my boy, Destination Devi. We were walking down the sideline, and we saw Mingo. He was like, is that a tight end? Like, he was like, nah, I think that's Mingo from Ole Miss. He was like, yo, that's a big dude. You know what I'm saying? So getting to see him up close, but you saw, like, the good, and then the areas of concern with his game. And I was like, all right, third round would be a good spot for him because that's where you can kind of get that developmental guy. And then he comes off the board early in the second. And I'm like, and I remember sitting there in Kansas City and I'm like looking at the board of receivers that's left.
He was the like first receiver.
It's Josh Downs, Tank Dell, like all those guys. And I'm just like, all right, bro, what do we like? What was the plan here? But I think that the ceiling is still there. I understood like what they were going for, but that's when one of the phrases that we use is don't go to the grocery store while you're hungry. So it's like, you traded away, our boy DJ Moore, right? Yeah. You traded him away. You don't try to draft his quote unquote copyright replacement in the same class. Like, you don't do that. And that's what I felt like they tried to do and I always say this, when you look at Bryce Young's game, you studied him when he was at Alabama after y'all, especially after y'all got the first round pick. I know you went and watched Bryce Young because that was the consensus. Yeah. He was always more of a timing and rhythm thrower. Yeah. Him, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, those guys work so well. Shout out to nephew. I am not Geechee, by the way. I am not, my wife.
I was about to say.
I saw that comment, dog. I
He said
promise
the
you, my wife saw
Charleston.
that. She would agree. I am not Geechee. But like,
Wait,
nah.
where you from?
But
Where you
no, for real, I
from?
think
Hold on, wait, you from Charleston?
I'm from Georgetown, South Carolina. So like that Georgetown
Okay,
County area. Over
okay,
there
okay,
from
okay.
Byron Young, who's with the
Yeah,
Los Angeles Rams. I'm from that area.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
yeah, low country, dog, low country.
They
But
said they heard
nah,
the Geechee.
but nah, I saw that comment. I was like, hold up, I gotta address this, man. Like, I don't think so. But nah, I know I got a little bit in there. I got a little bit in there. But yeah, I mean, like, I think watching those guys, they all were the same. It's crazy because they literally went back to back to back in terms of like being in Alabama. You had Tua, then you had
Yeah,
Mac, and then you had Bryce. They all have similar games, and I think that's where you look at like timing a rhythm thrower. I'm not getting a Jonathan Mingo out the rip for him. I want to get a Josh Downs. I want to get a Tank Dell, guys that can get open immediately. Now you head into this draft and you got Deontay Johnson, and I love that move because it gives Bryce that one-on-one guy, that quick winner, that
yeah.
that one-on-one, like I can leave you on the island and you can route guys up and you can be that timing and rhythm throw receiver for me. Hence why I probably wouldn't go Lad McConkey at 33.
Yeah, and I was seeing Lad until then, but I think I've seen comps people compare Lad and Deontay, to be honest, just because of the nuances and winning with leverage and not as explosive, but still can get deep and still can beat you on the outside. But speaking of Mingo, I actually dropped a video talking about he may be the odd man out because our coaching staff they've been turning the roster a little bit, churning, especially offensively. And they brought in Deontay. Obviously, Thielen's here. They re-signed Amir Smith-Marset. And of course, Terrace Marshall Jr. is somewhere in the bottom of that roster. But they were like, I think it was a lot of surprise that people were taking meetings with Mike Williams and Michael Gallup, and I think we all expect them to at least hit one receiver. I would prefer them to double dip, but at least one. But if you do the math, that receiver room is looking very, very crowded, and like they're not going to cut him or trade him. I mean, granted, there's no if he does good, whatever, hallelujah. But it just feels like he's not a part of their plans. Like it's just anything he does is just a bonus for them. So I want to get your thoughts about how do you think he'll progress? And I know you said that he was a developmental. Do you see him turning into another Terrace Marshall Jr. where caught in the cracks with the new coaching staff and just thrown by the wayside?
I think that's a strong possibility if he doesn't come out and perform this season. I don't think the leash is long. One thing that we are starting to see in today's NFL is that it's such a, and the phrase I use, it's such a microwave league right now where it's like instant gratification. You got to come in and be great out the gate. And it's like, at the same time, like understanding development is not linear. Everybody doesn't have the same arc. So I think that he should be given a little bit of grace, but I absolutely believe, especially with the 2020, I know it's a year ahead, but the 2025 receiver class, which you guys have in the first round pick, and if you have the type of year that some people believe that you're going to have, I'm telling you right now, Mingo might be replaced.
Top five. Yeah.
Top five. Like, Mingo might be replaced, man, especially when you think about T-Mac over at Arizona, 6'4", 6'5" kid. He looks like Drake London, but he moves so much more twitchy, more explosive, ball skills. Luther Burden, Evan Stewart, Taz Johnson. There's going to be a lot of receivers still. We don't know what Travis Hunter is going to do. I talked to one of my guys who scouts, I think it was yesterday. I was like, man, what do you think he should do? He's like, man, I think he should stay at corner because I think he could be an elite corner. You know what I mean? But we all know that he's a talented guy at receiver too. So it's a lot of receivers in next year's class. It's not going to be a down year. So I think that Mingo has to come in with the mindset of there's competition now. And I got to come in and put my A game, my best foot forward. Because if he doesn't, I don't think it's going to be. I think he's going to be Terrace Marshall 2.0, where it's like, we might look to trade you heading into next offseason if we don't see something. I need 600-700 yards just to show some growth. Because if you don't show any or very little, I think that's really going to put yourself in a really tough spot with y'all having a first round pick. And then, like I said, with those receivers, you at the end of the day, you have to know, and I always talk about this with front offices. Your job, especially when you have a quarterback, a young one, that's polarizing. People like the Chicago Bears, I don't care what nobody says. Chicago, you failed Justin Fields. You know what I mean? But and
Talk
you know
about
what?
it.
It's very much like being in relationships where you see like somebody that's dealing with like you've had bad partners or you're the bad partner, right? So you're the bad partner, you're the one that causes all the problems, but then you figure out maybe I'm the problem. What didn't that Taylor Swift have a song like that? It's me, I'm the problem. Once you figure out that it's you and you're not a narcissist, then you move on to the next person that you're dating. You're like, I'm gonna give you my all. What did Chicago Bears say? Man, we screwed up with Justin Fields. Let's go get some more receivers for a rookie Caleb Williams, right? So I think as a front office for the Carolina Panthers, you got to look at this thing and say, I have to figure out what's the best point of action for us. And yes, Mingo, we want to give you all the time in the world, but if we can improve this wide receiver room this offseason, in the draft, and next offseason, we're going to do that. If you get left behind, that's more of a you problem than a us problem.
And that's a good segue because you on it talking about the quarterback, the polarizing quarterback, and a lot of people will say that Mingo, who was going to thrive in this offense last year, because Frank Wright, we heard about some of the chaos, we heard about them putting a pistol in 7 days before they played the Falcons in week 1. I went to training camp literally every practice. I did not see the pistol one time in training camp practice. Not that they show everything because it's public, but at the same time, I didn't see that. I was at all whatever X amount of practices, but that, and then some people just say that, okay, Bryce Young is not a good quarterback. So a lot of the receiver is a very dependent position. So to me, I guess my question for you is, how much kind of, I guess, blame last year's struggles do you put on the coaches, on Bryce, on the weapons, and on lack of receiver? If you could divvy it up, I guess, not percentage wise, or rank from top to bottom, who deserves the most to least, and mainly we'll focus on Bryce Young.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Frank Reich is the top of that pyramid for me. Like he's at the very top. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you like he does like, because I recall being at camp, right?
Yeah.
And watching the creativity with Visca in the shotgun, the motions and all of that. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get some Visca at running back. We're going, all right, I like what I'm seeing here. And then because I remember we were being on the sideline. I remember somebody came up to us like, hey, don't tweet this out. Nobody has their positions yet. Because I think one of the reporters had tweeted out that Visca was playing running back. So they were trying to like dead all that. Like, no, don't talk about that. And I was like, all right, maybe y'all just want to keep the competitive advantage, whatever.
I mean, why not? I mean, they must hate me because I put a whole film breakdown for training camp practice up on LaVisca. Because once I saw him in the backfield, what they was doing with him, I was like, okay. And I put
it was the right move for him.
Yeah.
He looked like Cordell Patterson, and Cordell Patterson looked his best when they turned him into a hybrid running back receiver, right? But they never, once we got to the season, we didn't see that same thing from them. So Frank Reich is the number one culprit for me. Like, bro, you really messed this up. Bryce is such a polarizing thing because I've seen the interaction. I have a lot of Carolina Panther fans follow me. I see a lot of the arguments on social media.
Yeah,
I know that Bryce was in a bad situation. Now, the thing with Bryce is that Bryce is a timing and rhythm thrower, but and I know this was a talking point that people didn't want to really acknowledge, and I can tell you that it's an absolute fact. Bryce's height absolutely affects him as a quarterback.
Talk about
100%. Because I remember when they played Georgia, one of my guys worked for the team at Alabama at the time. And he told me Bryce called up to the OC. Was like, "Hey, we got to move me. I can't see back here." Like, you know what I mean? It was
wow.
Devonta Wyatt, Jordan Davis, those big boys on the D line. That I think it was the national championship game when they played Georgia the second time. And so when you watch Bryce watches, and I remember doing my pre-draft tour last year. Getting Mac and Bones, shout out to those boys, over in Charlotte on the radio. Like I told him, I said one of the things with Bryce is that he's toesy in the pocket, and it's by default and it's by his own doing because he has to stand up as far upright to see throwing lanes, which is why I love the Damian Lewis signing and the Robert Hunt signing because now he can step up and you want him to develop I would actually tell Bryce, go watch Drew Brees. Right? Watch how Drew Brees navigated the pocket to find those throwing lanes. Because when you're toesy like that, when it's time to throw, you're not lined up. You're not ready to throw. So you're up on your toes. Now you got to come down to an even base and then get the ball out. So Bryce had moments where A, he was late. B, when he got pressure, he was throwing what I would call foul balls. Like the ball was high and away. Like it was not
Yeah.
on target. So yeah, some stuff was not always on Mingo. I remember I did a deep dive watching Mingo, and I was like, man, one thing about it, Mingo was able to get deep at times and
A
get
couple
vertical,
times.
and Bryce just couldn't get him the ball. Like Bryce
Yeah.
is deep, and that was kind of the one of the weak points for this game was that the deep ball accuracy. Bryce, like similar to Mac Jones and Tua, he's an anticipatory deep ball thrower.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that you're going to say, "Hey, push." Bryce would not thrive in Bruce Arians' offense. That no risk it, no crap. Bryce, that is not an
Yeah.
offense for Bryce. If you can give, if you can give Bryce time and allow him to be in a clean pocket, he can get the ball down the field. But Bryce is going to be more of a my guy's got. I see my he's looking at it. I see my guy's getting a step. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the layup out there to him. Bryce is kind of an alley oop thrower in
Yeah.
terms of he's gonna get it up there. You go get it, and he's gonna put it in position for you typically. But in those situations, I did see where Mingo's vertical. Mingo's got a step or two, step and a half. And it's like, Bryce, just throw it over the over the outside shoulder. Bryce, throw him upfield. And the accuracy and ball placement was so spotty. But again, their skill sets, truthfully to me, didn't really mesh.
Yeah.
Because Bryce is a quick game type of, he's a point guard, right? I talked about it all pre-draft. You don't like, some people call him CP3. I didn't call him CP3. I call him Rajon Rondo, where
Yeah.
instincts, accuracy, ball placement, all that stuff is great, but he don't got the long ball. He don't have the three-point shot consistently, right? Rondo eventually developed that as his career went on and everything. But like CP3 always could shoot the three. He had the mid-range. He can get to the cup.
Yeah.
He did all of it, right? Even as an undersized guy. So I think you get Bryce the shooters, the floor spreaders, the things that he needs. And I think when you look at, like I said, having Deontay, and that's the thing. Like a lot of you talked about Xavier Legette. A lot of people, especially in the Panthers fan base, I've seen a lot of people down on him. Guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't be. Like, one of the main things, like I said, of what I do and what I appreciate is coming up on the story of a prospect, and it makes you buy in even more. Like this young man lost both of his mom and dad, I think months apart.
Yeah.
He battled COVID. Like it was so much that went on in his life. And then for him to be able to, I think he dealt with a little bit of injuries early on. And as if any us being in the Carolinas, if you watch South Carolina prior to Spencer Rattler, name his quarterback, right? Tell me the quarterback. You can't, because he wasn't good. He was not worth us really knowing. So like the offense was just very erratic. It was a lot. Marshawn Lloyd got healthy, and what did he do? The first thing he did as soon as he got healthy,
Out
jumped
of
right
there.
to the real USC. He went to Southern California.
Hey, you're
So
gonna
it
hurt
just
some
kinda
feelings
tells
saying
you-
that, man. You're gonna hurt some feelings calling it the real
I know.
USC.
I love y'all. But I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, you know what I mean? He jumped ship, man. So I think understanding like skill set wise, listen, to be 6'1", and I saw him up close and personal. This is a big dude, country fed, strong, strong handed. Like I remember when he measured it at the Senior Bowl, people were like, oh, his hands are smaller. Stuff, guys, the problem it doesn't show up. Like it does not show up when passes are not accurate. He still makes plays on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So to be 6'1", 225, run a 4.39, jump 40 inches, he's so explosive, but he works his butt off. That's the thing. That's the thing I consistently heard is that this dude's gonna give you everything he has. And for me, I want a guy like that with Deontay Johnson. If you keep Adam Thielen at 33, I wouldn't mind getting Xavier Legette, because now you get a guy that he's also a better route runner than people want to give him credit for. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's got some nuance and techniques to his games. The stair step technique, especially on those crossing routes, being able to lean into guys, plant that foot and get vertical, and then bang across the field and create that separation. But also, I think he topped out at like 22.3 miles per hour in that on that mesh concept, that slant route against Mississippi State. He's an angle beater. So you're talking about giving him easy access to grass and Bryce getting the ball to him. 100%, he'll be able to make plays for Bryce. But also, if Bryce is in the situation where, hey, I don't have the pocket's muddy, there's bodies around me, and Bryce can't get the ball out as effectively as he wants to, but he could put it in the area code, despite not being 6'3", Xavier Legette can go and get it. He's an area code receiver. Just put it in the area code, guys. I'm telling you now, this is a guy that you want to have on your team, and he can help Bryce be better and take that next step. And secondly, he is not Jonathan Mingo. I don't know why this popped up, but he is not Jonathan Mingo. Like, I get it. Their body types are a little similar. They tested similar. He's not Jonathan Mingo, guys. I promise y'all, man. Like, it also, route running, guys, is not a, hey, you are who you came out of college as. That's not how this works. Like, you work on, and a lot of times you work on what you're asked to do in college. That's the other thing about watching film. That's the other part of this process for me.
Yeah.
Gaining the context. What were you asked to do? You know how many cornerbacks I've talked to? It's like, bro, are you a man or a zone guy? And I know the answer because I'm watching you on tape and I can tell a level of comfort. And then guys like, man, I'm a man to man. But we play cover 3. It was like, so a lot of times guys aren't even asked to be the best version of themselves at the risk of the scheme that they're in. So I think Xavier Legette would be an outstanding fit for Bryce to give him that kind of do it all type of guy that can take jet handoffs, throw the screen game to him, mesh concept, the goal ball, the back shoulder fade, all those type of things he can do. And he's not going to give you some of the, because I know a lot of the Panther fans love Adonai Mitchell. And
you hitting all the hot button points, bro. You hitting all the hot button points.
I like Adonai a lot. But understand something. He's not the most physical dude. He doesn't face press coverage a lot. And when he has faced press coverage, he gets knocked off the spot, knocked off his route. You can get hands on him and reroute him. You can throw off timing. And in the NFL, listen, I don't have time to stare you down until you get free from being, press jammed at the line of scrimmage. I got to go to the next read, and Bryce isn't going to stand there and wait for you to get open if you are dealing with someone that's patient and strong-handed and that can throw you off your game. Where I watch you turn on the Georgia tape, they definitely walk those corners up and say press them. It didn't really work well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was out there throwing guys off of him, and he's more of a physical route runner than the crisp, Jerry Jeudy types. There's multiple ways to run routes. So I think you understand that this game, the name of the game for drafting in the draft is understanding what are you now, what can you be, and with Xavier Legette, he can be a really, really good receiver as you continue to develop him. But also at 33, in the second round especially, I would not mind a tight end. I don't like the tight end room the Carolina Panthers have right now. I have not liked the tight end room for quite some time. For some reason, Ian Thomas continues to get either re-signed or kept on the roster. Don't understand it personally.
He got dirt on somebody, bro. He got dirt on somebody,
it's
fam.
Insane, bro. It's insane. Like, I've just been sitting there like, come on, man. Get a tight end. And I think you look at the tight ends in this class, Theo Johnson from Penn State.
Okay.
You know what I mean? 6'5", 250, 4.5 in the 40, jumped high,
40-inch
vert. Like, ridiculous athlete. And he just was in Penn State's offense, which was terrible. Like, that was a bad offense. No quarterback play. There's a lot of things that went on. So I think the second, third round for him would be an outstanding spot. You got Tommy Tremble. You can let Tommy start. But Theo is a really good blocker too. Pass protection and run blocking. You want to go to some 12 personnel packages, run the ball, which when you look at what Dave Canales did at in Tampa, you had Cade Otton and I forget the other tight end's name, but they're both really good blockers. They would run 12. They would run Rashad White. They would do, different things to get Baker Mayfield going and getting him ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what is the big thing. You know what I mean? It's just the fact that you got to find a tight end to help direct some defensive coverage in the middle of the field. And you don't have that right now.
And I think that's the big thing that people are missing because, ever since Greg Olsen has been gone, it's been a void there. I mean, we tried. I thought Ian Thomas could have been a little bit better. I think they brought him in as an athletic raw guy out of Indiana, and I think Greg broke his foot that year, his rookie year, so that forced Ian to play earlier than he should. And I think that just kind of killed his development from there. He really hasn't done anything from there. But I know some people are like, you can get a tight end anytime. I like some guys like Jared Wiley. He's not much of a blocker, but he's a move tight end. You can split him out in the slot or the outside. Great route runner, big. He can run that seam, stretch the field that way. He's a guy that I think will be around later, because I think a lot of people feel like receiver is a little bit more pressing. And with that 33 and 39 pick we have, because we don't have a first, but there's a lot of value in the second to be had. There's guys that are going to fall, and if they do, we're the first one on the board. Granted, after day one, you have a whole X amount of hours. People can make phone calls. We could trade back and get more picks. And with that 39, we're still in good shape and continue to get more picks. I'm the type of guy, I want more top 100 picks in this draft. We have a lot of holes. We're not going to answer them all this year, but drafting well, we talked about how bad we've done before. Drafting well, get some guys that can contribute early. I'm even down for high floor, lower ceiling guys, because we just need guys that can come in and help. We need help in a lot of places. What direction would you lean? Because we've got Deontay, we revamped the guards. We had to get rid of Bryce, unfortunately. We struck out with Chase Young. We talked about Clowney. People are talking about edge. Chop has been a guy. We talked about Chop a little bit on the timeline, a little bit back and forth. What do you think they should prioritize? Should it be edge or corner? Because some people, they've been meeting with Wiggins a lot. I don't think Wiggins slips, but they've been meeting with Wiggins a lot. People are talking about Kool-Aid may fall because of that injury and him having that foot surgery late. So, and clearly they need corner. They got rid of Dante and they haven't really found much. Edge and corner seem to be a bigger priority, in my opinion, at this point with receiver. Us getting Deontay has kind of put that fire out a little bit. How do you feel they should think and weigh those options? And are you a BPA type of guy, or do you think look, this is a loaded receiver class. You got 33. It's the closest thing you can get to a first round pick. Go get you a guy.
Man, I think this receiver class is really deep. And every scouts I talked to have said the same thing. That's why you see with the Houston Texans making that trade with the Vikings, because the receivers on their board. It's like, why sit at the back end of the first when we can get extra picks and have a team come up and give us what we need, right? So you could absolutely go receiver at 33. And I see the chat, they're like, everybody's on Lone Lad, and I'll address that in a second. But I think you look at, see who falls, right? And I think that's where you because if you're going to be sick if you take Ladd and then Darius Robinson becomes an elite player at his position, and now you're pissed off in 3 years. Like, why didn't we draft Darius, right? Because you're drafting based on need. I don't think the needed wide receiver. I love I cannot stress enough. Getting Deontay Johnson was such a big thing for me because it vastly improved the receiver situation, and because where now you take some pressure off of Mingo in terms of having to be the number one, having to be the man-to-man beater, but you give Bryce the type of receiver he needs. So if a top tier edge rusher is on the board, yes, because that's one of the weak spots of this team right now is edge. Right? If Nate Wiggins was to fall, or one of these top corners, Kool-Aid McKinstry, all based on the scheme that Evero wants to run, like how does he want to play a lot of heavy man-to-man? Does he want to play more zone? You figure that out. And this is a really good corner group too, where you could find some quality starters back into the second, third, even fourth and fifth round, in my opinion. But of course, the high-end guys are going to be more a little bit earlier. So I think corners could slip mainly because of tackle, receiver, and quarterback in round one. They could fall down the board. And of course, you got 3 edge rushers with first round grades in Jarrett Verse, Liatu Latu, and Dallas Turner. Cornerbacks could take a slip, you know what I mean? But I think at 33, it just depends on, to me, who's on the board. And if I can get an impact player that's going to help this team in any way, shape, or form, that's what I'm going with. I would go best player available, depending on who's available. If Darius Robinson is there, that's a guy you think about Zadarius Smith early in his career, a guy that could play the edge, great against the run, but also you can walk him down into the 3-tech and let him rush head up a guards. And the quickest way to the quarterback is up the middle. So I think that's a big part. And I think Pimpernel said center, 100%. It depends on which center is there. JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, I have no doubt he's going round one. You got Zach Frazier from West Virginia. But if you don't want to go center in the second round, I'm telling you right now, third round, fourth round, because it depends on how the board falls. Bo Limmer from Arkansas is one of my guys that my co-host over at Locked On for Draft, and my guy, Scott Director over at the Draft Network, Keith, Sanchez, he threw that name to me. I was like, all right, I got to check him out. I've been a fan of Bo ever since.
Yeah.
Bo, Cedric Van Pran, from Georgia, and I talked about him on the pod recently because I was at Clemson's pro day. Will Putnam, the center from Clemson, strong physical kid. He's not going to be the greatest athlete. So if you're talking about running a lot of zone, a lot of like screens with him, he's not going to be the guy to get out in front and be the lead blocker. But if you want to put him as more of that like displacement guy, climb up to the second level, gallop technique, duo blocks, get up there, he can do those things and do it well. I remember watching him at the pro day, and I've done a lot of background, military background he has. I think his dad was a lieutenant or whatever in the military. This very, very sound-minded young man. But I remember watching them get ready for the pro day, and like all the rest of the Clemson players, they're in the huddle, they're in the circle, they're warming up. He's like walking by himself, just like stone cold, mean face.
Yeah.
Like he's locked in because he understands nobody's talking about him. He didn't get an invite to the combine. That was his combine, right? And he did well. I think he put up like 29 reps on the bench. His field drills, he was fluid and everything. He moved well laterally so he can mirror and match guys. I think that this is a dude that absolutely could be in play like that day 3 pick if you want to wait on center. 33 is going to be just a very polarizing situation because I wouldn't be surprised if they got some calls from teams. If Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. fall to the second round, there's going to be some teams that call up to 33 and say, hey, man, we want to get our quarterback. What's it going to cost? It's like, all right, well, let's swap seconds. Send your third over. Let me get a second for next year, and then we could talk. You know what I mean? We can get this thing done. I think just at the end of the day, the Panthers have to do make the best decision in terms of what's your plan? I think that I always talk about this. Go into the draft with a plan, man. We see teams every year draft without a plan, and this is very evident when you see their draft class. And when we get to camp, it was like, I don't really know what the plan is for this young man. It was like, bro, you had how many months to get ready for this event? And you know what I mean? And you still drafted the guy you weren't sure on how to use and everything. So I think that's going to be the big thing. I saw somebody ask about Troy Franklin. I think there's a 50-50 shot he's there at 33. I think he slips down the board. The combine was not a great showing for him.
Yeah.
And that was tough, man. Like being there and hearing some of the things, people were like, yo, like the gauntlet drill, the 40, even though 4.41 is blazing, but for a guy that was called the best deep threat in the class to not hit 4.3 or anywhere close to 4.2 after you drop weight, that's a little bit of a concern for sure. So I think he is I think there's a stronger chance of him being there, of being available at 33 post combine than he would have been pre.
Right. So let's take a little time to reset. Everybody, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Rocking here with my boy, Full-Time Dane. Let me put the number, the label back up. Check him out on Twitter, DP_NFL. Valuable content. He posts reports for the Draft Network. Very, very informational reports. I learned a lot from him. I'm dipping my toe in this draft process, y'all know, and I take a lot of notes watching Dan from afar. So I really appreciate him joining me. You guys, make sure you get a video thumbs up. We got 346 people in here. First of all, give a round of applause for y'all. So 345. Please give the video thumbs up. We got 94 likes, and they free. I'm trying to figure out why the math not mathing because it don't cost anything. Like Pat Coltrane says, Dims is free. The likes are free. So I appreciate that. But the likes that weren't free is my boy Double O Kane left a super chat. I got to acknowledge the question. Appreciate you on the super chat. You said, I know it takes two to tango, but why haven't we reached out for Cincy? 39 to TMJ for Higgins. Burrow play with him. The chip year just makes sense to me. Shout out to you. That's Project Pack on your profile pic. Shout out to Project Pack one time for Memphis. But I think Higgins is a wrap. And I think the Bengals, they slow play these trades so much. And I talked about it last week. I'm on the stream that they're not in a hurry to do anything. I think they played the Jesse Bates situation kind of the same way. They kind of just stalled him out. And then they let him go eventually, but they're not going to be in a hurry to do it. Even though they haven't talked to him in a calendar year, they're not going to be in a hurry to get rid of him. And I think the time to strike on TMJ was a while ago. The fact that he couldn't find anybody, like we couldn't even get a seventh for him, says a lot. And what Dame kind of said about trading Mingo after this year or next year is probably what you should have done with TMJ once he kind of fell through the cracks. And you should have got, while people thought, oh, there's still some potential there, while there's still a benefit of the doubt. Now there's no benefit of the doubt. They know he wants out. He's not seen the field at all. He's on a rookie deal. Nobody cares. If they're going to take him, they'll claim him off waivers if they want to. They're not going to take a shot and give up draft capital, even if it's a late 7th round pick swap. So unfortunately, I think the value on TMJ is not enough for 39 to be there. Could you do 39 and 33? That would probably get it done, but I wouldn't do that. Not for Higgins, because you got to double down and pay him. Like Dame talked about, and like I talked about, getting Deontay Johnson for that price, he's making $10 million. And to get Dante Jackson, a guy you were about to cut, and a 6 and a 7, you trade about 42 spots between the 6th and the 7th, which is probably, I think it's like the value is equivalent to a 6th round pick. That's a steal. That's exactly what you need. That you don't have to pay him a big deal like you would Ayuk or Higgins, and he probably fit. I mean, maybe not Ayuk, but he fits better than T. Higgins, a route runner that's good in the short intermediate. They can get open quick. They can win at the line of scrimmage. They can't walk down and play single high like they used to us last year. That type of guy. And I know I guess some of it's on the field, but the antics and the effort questions and stuff are there. But these are the type of risks you have to take when you're in the Panthers position. And I think it's really nothing but upside. Worst case scenario, he's on the books for $10 million. You draft a guy, you have a rookie that's coming in anyway, probably from the draft. Put Deontay down on the bench if the effort ain't there. You know what I'm saying? Or trade him yourself. Best case scenario, you got him in house, ink him a deal around the trade deadline, or keep him in house. And if you sign Derrick Brown, you can franchise him and then get it and work on the deal there. If he ends up getting the Adam Thielen treatment and he gets 100-something targets, he may go off and he may be at the top of the wide receiver market. Because that's kind of the type of receiver he is. He needs opportunity and a functional offense and quarterback. And I think it's all upside for him. Like, these are the type of deals that we're usually on the other end of. We're usually the receiver, the Christian McCaffrey, giving away Christian McCaffrey for a first round equivalent, and then he wins Offensive Player of the Year. Or we trade DJ Moore and he ends up having a career year with Justin Fields, who's not even that productive of a quarterback in Chicago. So this is one of those deals that we have to strike while the iron is hot. And I think Dame talked about it. We can right our wrongs from the Mingo thing. If we bring in a rookie, we don't need him to be one of our better receivers like we did for Mingo. I think there was a lot of pressure on Mingo to be that number 1 or 2 guy early on last year, and he just wasn't that guy. But now if you bring in whomever it is, even if it is a AD or Legette, that you have concerns about his development, he doesn't have to be that guy. You have Thielen, you have Deontay. We know Deontay's probably going to get the lion's share. And if anything close to last year, Thielen's going to get the looks as well. The rookie can get in where he fits in, and as he progresses, it's a lot less pressure on it. So I think it's just a great situation. I know I said a lot, Dame, but
no, you good.
How you feel about what I was? Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to piggyback off your point when you talk about having Thielen, right? Like I know that there's been some talk about, well, do you trade Thielen? I would try and work that situation out, because for me, if you're going to draft a Legette, I'm putting his locker, I'm putting Deontay Johnson's, I'm putting Adam Thielen's, I'm keeping an empty locker right between them, and I'm putting him there. Because the amount of knowledge that he can get in terms of reading leverage, reading coverages, route running, sinking, breaking, getting out of his breaks, different things of that nature, from those two guys who are really good route runners, and that's where they excel, it will only help him, because what he has, they can't develop, which is the frame, the speed, the explosiveness, the verticality in his game. You can't do that. But I would say this, and that's the thing, if you were to go Xavier Legette at 33, I know people would be like, well, we could get Ladd. And I've said this. Honestly, what's the biggest difference between Ladd and Ricky Pearsall? Ladd is a quicker receiver. Yeah. Pearsall is a more athletic in terms of a more aggressive receiver, where the ball is in the air, he's going to make a play on it, where Ladd is more of a field separator, where Ricky kind of separates on the field and in the air, as we've seen. And he's shown that grit, that toughness. And not saying that Ladd isn't, but if I could get Xavier Legette at 33, and I can get because your next in the 3rd round you got 65, you got 101 in the 4th. If I could get Xavier at 33 and Ricky Pearsall at what 65 in the third round,
Yeah.
I'm smashing that. I'm taking that all
Yeah.
day long because now I have, in terms of youth, you're talking about walking into 2025. If Mingo doesn't work out, you know what I'm saying? You still can move on, but you got Legette, you got Pearsall, you got Deontay Johnson, you know what I'm saying? And now you feel good about the youth at the position. And I think that's a home run situation because Pearsall to me, like, and I saw both of those guys up close and personal at the Senior Bowl, right?
Mhm.
And it was almost kind of crazy because like Ladd was smaller in person than I expected him to be, but like the footwork, the quickness, the everything that he has, man, like it's superb. But again, there's some limitations to it to where when guys get hands on them, they can reroute them. When guys get hands on them, they can throw off their timing. They can get hip to hip, squeeze them to the sideline if you got them outside. So what happens in that situation where, all right, can you extend the catch point? Ladd doesn't really do that. You know what I mean? And where
Yeah.
Ricky, you throw that ball helmet or higher, he still will go up and make a play on it. And I just think he's one of the more underrated receivers in this class. And I love his game. And I think that's where for me is like, all right, do I want to take Ladd at 33 or could I get Ricky at 65? If
Yeah.
that is the case, I'm taking Ricky at 65, and I'm either going a bigger receiver, more athletically, physically gifted receiver, or like I said, you think about tight end. If a high value center is on the board, cool. Edge rusher, corner, like there's a litany of positions that they could go at 33. And I think this team is just this. And I know, shout out to my boy Monty. I know he absolutely did not want to trade Brian Burns, but I told him this was probably the best case scenario because they should have signed him last year. They should have got him under contract. You know what I mean? But Scott Fritter was out here just not doing things that GM is supposed to do. But also, I think like trading him away and getting those extra picks gave you more picks because right now you have what 1, 2, 3. You got basically 4 top 101 picks. That's
Yeah.
good value right there,
Yeah.
and that's really where the teeth of this and the meat and potatoes of this draft will be is in that second to back end of the third round, and you should feel good about that.
Yeah, I think Jim Nagy, he talked about that, how their evaluations on late and undrafted guys is just weird because of the NIL has kind of killed those late guys. So I think being in the top 100 is imperative in this draft, and we'll see how it is going forward. And obviously, you would know more about that than me because you're deep on that. I've looked at 40 prospects. I'm proud of myself for that. But I know you a lot further along than me. I'm making baby steps on that. But as far as trading back, because you mentioned that from 33 and getting more top 100 picks, because that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. How far back would you go? Because my mindset before we had 39, I was like, I wouldn't go back further than 40 because I feel like, and this is a Scott Fitter principle as well, he felt like the talent around picks 15 to 45 are a little bit not as clear. It just depends on people's needs when you get to because the teams are better on that back half of the draft. They're a lot closer to the playoffs. So their needs may factor a little bit into their draft board. So sometimes it's a little bit kind of congested in terms of who's who in that order. So the value on those picks are the same. I don't know if you subject yourself to the same thought process, but how far back would you be willing to trade? Knowing that we had 39 in the back of your head, would you try to 2 or 3 picks? I think the frame of reference I've used, and I can't remember what they got, but Arizona traded with Tennessee last year from 33 for the Will Levis trade, and they picked up an extra third. I think they only went back. They didn't go back that far, but all they picked up was a future third. So how far back would you go in terms of thinking, okay, hey, I know I don't have a second last year because of that Bears trade. So if I go back further enough, I could probably get another second next year. Or do you just say, hey, I know there's a lot of value because there may be a Legette on the board, or there may be, let's say Legette and a couple of receivers that they like are there. And if you go back 5 or 6 spots, you still could be good. So how far is the danger zone? Okay, you're screwing the pooch. Now you don't went too far back. Now you're going to miss a bunch of guys that you like in terms of the Panthers.
I think the furthest I would go back, looking at the draft board in the second round right now, and I'm looking at those teams that need quarterback because that's typically what you would expect teams to move up for.
Yeah.
The furthest I would go back is 44, and that's to the Raiders because that's a team that absolutely needs a quarterback situation, like a new quarterback. You know, they have Aiden O'Connell, they brought in Gardner Minshew. nobody's moved by that quarterback room.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like they have to add some spots to it. And if you can swap that second, get an extra third from them in this draft as well, now you put yourself even more, value inside the top 100, where again you can hit so many different spots. You can hit edge, you can hit corner, you can hit receiver, and again you can either take day 2 a center or wait till day 3. You can kind of nail a good couple spots, because when I tell y'all, man, this wide receiver class in general, like the true depth of this thing, there's so many names that don't get mentioned. Jalen McMillan from Washington, like route runner, got good ball skills, like run after the catch, good speed as well. You know what I mean? You think about his teammate Jalen Polk, another guy that can catch the ball and do things. Tez Walker, you know what I mean? See him perform better at the combine after what he didn't do down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, which was tough for him, right? Javon Baker, a guy who was a great route runner,
Like
and has good speed. I watched him battle with some of those high octane corners, the Quinyon Mitchells, the Cam Harts, and he had success and he won 1-on-1 in those 1-on-1s. Jamari Thrash, Brendan Rice from USC, Jerry Rice's son. I'm telling you, one of the sleepers in this class, Malachi Corley. There's so many names, guys, and I know that receiver is such a big thing, but I'm telling you, you don't have to just like smash the button at 33 and feel like, what was it called? FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about having FOMO. Like you're not gonna miss out on legitimate receivers, because it's, at the end of the day, looking at what Tampa had, and that's why I kind of want to see how Canales handles this thing, right? You had Mike Evans, that big body, do-it-all receiver, right? You had Chris Godwin, who talked to some scouts, and they said, man, I do see a lot of Chris Godwin and potential Chris Godwin in Xavier Legette's game. He might be just a little bit more explosive in everything. And Chris was a really good route runner and everything as well from the slot. But like talking about putting him as that big slot, that power slot as well, which he moves out. So he plays all three receiver positions.
Yeah.
Talk about IQ. You know what I mean? You played the IQ of a receiver to go from X to Z to slot to bunch, like to know all those different alignments, and like that's great stuff to know and to have.
It's a mentality thing. It's a mentality thing too, playing inside versus outside as well.
No, 100%. Right. When I have a two-way goal in the slot, and then you're comfortable there, but going out wide, where it's like, all right, he's outside shade. I'm trying to get outside because I'm running the takeoff. I need to sell this inside release, force him off the spot, and then work back inside. Like, it's different things. And I think that's where, those little nuances are coachable things. Like, in scouting, guys, you don't really harp on things you can teach. You know what I mean? You harp on, can you learn, right? And Mike Tomlin talked about that. It's more so coaching, and that's what you really key in on. So I think that the receiver class is so loaded, right? Johnny Wilson, he played receiver. He showed up well at the Senior Bowl, tested in everything he did at the combine, right? Like this is a outstanding receiver class. Honestly, this is one of the best receiver class I think I've scouted since, what was it? Was it the 2020 class? I don't know what it is. CD, T, Justin Jefferson, like that class was loaded as well.
Yeah, Judy Ruggs. I don't think it was Judy Ruggs as well. And
Judy and Ruggs was in that class.
Was Amon Ra that year or no?
Was he? Or was he no, he was in the Jamar Chasem class. I think he was in the very next group. Or whatever, behind all those guys. So again, what was he, like a third, fourth round pick? Like, when you have a loaded group like that, you can find steals, guys. So I think that's probably the big thing, man. Because is Lag going to go round one? I don't know. Like, some like him there. Some I've talked to is like, yeah, no, we still got a 2 on him. Stuff like that, which is understandable, So I think that's really just the big thing. It's like, man, what is the plan? How do we want to build? Because I know everybody wants to. I see Ernest Thompson's put in Roman Wilson 100%. You talking about a guy that dominated the Senior Bowl. We talked like people talked about Ladd, and I remember talking to Quinyon, and Quinyon, him and Roman went. Quinyon was the star of the Senior Bowl, and I remember I interviewed him and I talked to him off air, and I said, bro, talk to me, man. Like, how did everything go? He's like, bro, Roman was so hard to get a read on because the word he used was a no nonsense receiver. In
Yeah.
terms of at the line of scrimmage, it's not a bunch of dancing and
Yeah.
all the one on ones at the 7-on-7 camp stuff. It's nuance, it's tempo, it's patience, it's suddenness, and he knows how to get into his routes. He knows how to push you off the ball to gain ground and then get to his spot. And that's where, if you remember, he called that during one-on-ones. He
Yeah.
called Quignon
Yeah.
called him out. He was like, I slipped or whatever when he went to break. But it just goes to the footwork and everything else, and it goes back to the film. Like you watch Roman Wilson's film, Michigan let him do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was very much run game, crossing routes in the slot, different things like that. And I think this guy can play a Z and a slot position. So again, it's another guy. If you trade back to 44, you know what I mean? If the Raiders wanted to move up and get Michael Penix or Bo Nix or Spencer Rattler, you could get a Roman Wilson at 44 or 45 and still get someone else at 39 with the 39th pick that you still have. There's so much wiggle room and flexibility. And guys, at the end of the day, it's really understanding that you're not going to win the division in this offseason. You're not. Like, you can't. It's impossible. Nah. It's impossible to do that this offseason. But what you do is build for the next offseason so that once you get to the next offseason, the foundation's built, and you say, okay, now I know where we really want to go with this first-round pick. Maybe you don't have to go wide receiver. Maybe you do go corner. And again, if you really need corner, you want an elite one, Travis Hunter from Colorado, right? One of the best cornerbacks in the nation, right? And I talked to him about him yesterday. He said, bro, he's one of the most explosive athletes I've seen. And it's like, he's got to bulk up a little bit because he's still thin. He's built like a receiver still, but like outstanding prospect.
The instincts are crazy, man. Like some of that intercept, I don't know who that was. That was TCU. UCLA. That pick against TCU where he peeled off of that route. It would look like a touchdown. He peeled off to the route, and that pick he made, like, it's just his body control and his ability to make plays on the ball. And you see it more on offense, but like some of the interceptions he get are just crazy. Ridiculous, man. Like it's really like when you talk about a freak athlete, this dude is a freak athlete. I put that on top of all the snaps that he was playing on top of that too, man. It's just that instinct that like some dudes just naturally get it. I mean, I'm gonna say naturally because I've never been on the cinema film or know how smart he is to talk to him, but some dudes just, you can tell they have a feel for the game. Kind of like how you see LeBron in this clip he just posted talking about certain things. Like some guys, just football is just like, it comes easy to them. And like certain things you can't even really talk, you can't even really like quantify it in words. But if you play ball and you see it, it's like, this dude, he one of them ones, man. Like, so we got Travis and JC Horn at the cornerback position would be, listen, man, it is what it is. All right, a couple. I'm gonna run through a couple different scenarios to get your thoughts. One, I need a 30-second blurb on these prospects.
Gotcha.
All right. Keon Coleman,
big, physical, catch point, better route runner at Michigan State than he was at Florida State because of what he was asked to do. Can do it all, really. Can really do it all, and has a really good ceiling if you allow him to take that next step.
Peyton Wilson.
Maniac. Athletic, versatile, can do everything. Blitz, drop off in the coverage, rush off the end, stop the run. Medicals are going to be the big thing for him, but his game, if he has a 100% medical, he's the best linebacker in this class.
Over Adrian Cooper? Okay.
For me, yeah.
All right. Brian Thomas Jr.
Explosive, verticality, ball skills, developmental route runner. Route tree was very limited at LSU and what he was asked to do and where he won, but big body, legitimately could go up and get it. And a guy that, with his speed and height, length, and athleticism, is a guy that you want to add to your receiver room, especially if you have a number one.
How you on Zach Frazier?
Zach Frazier, gritty, tough, intelligent, good hand strength. I think he's a center only. Where I look at JPJ and some of the other guys that could play guard and center, I think he's a center only, but really smart, really intelligent, can get the job done. team first type of player as well. Could be a long-term starter.
Xavier Worthy.
Fastest man on the planet. Really good route runner. Tracks the ball well. Clear speed is elite, as we can see. He's got to work on the concentration drops. He has some drops on tape that you just leave you scratching your head, where you want to see him to reel those in. But outstanding talent, and get him in the right situation. He absolutely could be 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie.
Is Carolina the right situation for him? Because I can't remember her name. There's one girl, she loves Xavier Worthy, and she be fighting tooth and nail about how you feel about his fit in Carolina.
I think he fits well with Bryce because he can win quick. He's a guy you can get the ball to into the in the quick game. Talking about slants, crossers, screens. I think it was like that highlight we see from his freshman year. He catches the screen and takes it up the sideline and burns everyone that was on the field. I think he would fit because he's a really good route runner too. You know what I mean? Like the whip route against Iowa State, not this past season, but the year before. Like he showcases the tempo and the patience, and he knows how to get to his spots and how to move guys off. I think he would fit very well with Bryce. And a guy that with his speed, with Bryce being more of an anticipatory thrower, like if Bryce threw it out there early, he's one of those guys that can go get the alley-oop.
Go get it. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to some running backs. Jalen Wright.
Explosive. Like this is probably, I think Trey Benson, is an explosive dude too. He's one of the top 3 in terms of just pure speed, home run threat. Very, very good in pass pro. I just watched them and graded them yesterday, and just the amount of times he stepped into the pocket and stonewalled a blitzing linebacker and took guys on. He scans well. He can catch the ball pretty adequately in terms of getting the ball to him in the screen game and the flats. And with his speed, man, just a guy. I think he's more suited north and south. Not the most fluid in terms of like hip movement, super elusive stuff like that. Is a little bit restricted, I think, because of his body composition and his build. But overall, man, I think this is a dude that you absolutely could have fun with, putting him in that backfield and designing some manufactured touches for him as well to get him out in space.
Yeah, I like Jalen. His vision's a little bit iffy sometimes. Like for a guy that's that fast, there's opportunities to bounce that he don't take. I'm like, bro, trust your speed, man. Like, and I play running back, so when I see the tight, and I'm like, bro, like. I understand you don't want to
run. I think it was against
Kentucky.
Right?
Yeah,
he ran right into the pile, tried to cut back inside. I'm like, bro, your guys sealed the outside, jump cut, a slide cut this thing,
and it's over with
and gone. You know what I mean? And it's like it's crazy how that happened. And I'm like, I would love to talk to him. Like, man, what's going on? Like, was this something that, because some guys are taught like, follow the blocks, don't veer off the scheme. You know what I mean? Like, those moments where it's like the coach watching the guy take a 3 and it's like, no, okay, never mind. Like, you got some of those coaches where they really tell the guys like, hey, follow your blocks, don't deviate from the plan, stay on the run path. And I'm like, that's good if the blocks are blocking, right? If everything's blocked 100%, that's fine. But I always talk about this, and that's the thing. I think that's a big thing for fast running backs. And in general, I always use the analogy of, can you navigate 5 o'clock traffic, right? Yeah. Like, I don't care about having a Lamborghini if you got a driver who can't get in front of the pack. So it's like you can never get the full benefit of the Lambo on the interstate if it's 5 o'clock traffic and you got all these cars in front of you. How can you tempo yourself, work through the wash and through the mesh and through all the different bodies and get in front of the pack and then show me that 0 to 60? You know what I'm saying? Things like that. And I think this is a running back that has that, but just not jump cutting and bouncing runs that he should. Actually caught me off guard with him.
Yeah. And I put it on the timeline. I'm like, we've seen these speed guys really have an early impact. I talked about Keaton Mitchell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Chan. Those guys, they have a role. It may be by committee. They may never be an every down back. But when you bring a guy in that fast, defenses get tired. They fall asleep. And if you got a guy that can run from SEC secondaries like Jalen Wright can, I'm like, you're going to catch my eye. And so that's kind of what stuck out for me initially. That's what made me dive into the tape. I'm like, all right, this dude has some skills that I think he could be a part of a committee. And I think that's what most of this class is. There's a couple guys that I think have 3-down skill sets. And I want to get your thoughts on one guy, if you feel the same, but Ray Davis.
I like Ray. I like Ray a lot. Um, like one of the better receiving backs in this class, can run routes out of the backfield. He catches the ball very well. Physical downhill type of runner. Got that bowling ball. Ray Rice, Doug Martin, that low center of gravity build. Tough runner, good footwork. And I think, like, again, like just the third down value for him is really good. And a guy that I think I end up giving him like a late third round grade.
Okay.
But of course, we know with the running backs, like they're going to get pushed down the board because of the depth and the talent at other positions. And of course, the way that this free agency class shaped out, teams are not going to have to, hey, get a guy, like him in the second or third round. We can get him in the fourth. I think more so Trey Benson and Blake Corum might be the first two guys off the board, and then probably be day two picks because of what they bring to the table athletically and just their overall game. But yeah, Ray Davis is a baller. I think like adding, I'm not Chuba's solid, you know what I mean? But I definitely want to get somebody to pair with Chuba, man. I think, you want to get someone like an offsetting skill set for me.
Is Miles Cook? His contract is almost unmovable, so he's gonna be here at least, I think, through OTA, so they can at least put eyes on him. But is he? They already said Chuba's RB1. They haven't really confirmed much about anything outside of Bryce, but they said that Chuba was the running back one. They said that, I think, one of the first press conferences, Canella said that. I think,
and I'm not surprised because the years Chuba had, and he's grown into such a really good between the tackles runner, forward leaning, strong, physical.
Which is crazy because
that was not his game in college.
Which is crazy, bro. Like, and I saw that
in college.
And our fan base used to hate Chuba because he was tripping over his own feet. His hands weren't that good, but you can really tell he put in the work. Clearly gained some weight, and like you said, that forward lean that he runs with. And I saw that rookie year when he filled in for CMC a lot. I was like, this dude sees it. The vision was there. I could see the vision. It was just getting that pace of running the zone, getting that footwork, get his feet underneath him so he can make those type of cuts. And you really saw the thread of it last year when he was that complimentary role with Foreman. But I think people really started buying in this year, and like I felt vindicated this year with it. But you were talking about Chuba. I know you're not as high on him as far as like being that main guy. Would you get, and you said the complimentary, would you try to find the heir apparent? Because a guy like Trey Benson has 3-down skill set, in my opinion. Ray Davis is one of them ones as well. There's not a ton of those guys, or you can go the complimentary role. If you want to get a bigger back, you could go Estime. Blake Corum can bang. He's not a bruiser, but he can bang if you want him to. Marshawn Lloyd is a 3-down guy, I think. We talked about Braylon Allen a little bit as a big guy, and I know how you felt about him. Or you could, if you want to get a receiving back, is to add that, you could go Shipley, or you could go Loud, or a guy like that. So what do you think? Do you think they should try to find that? Because Chuba's, I think this is his contract year, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he won't be expensive because he's a good type of back that you just add to a committee. And I think he won't be expensive. You should keep Chuba. He's that type of guy that has the work ethic. Would you go every down back to try to find a main guy and keep and kind of put Chuba back? Because I think a guy like Ray, I mean, I wouldn't spend high draft capital, but I think a guy like Ray in the fourth would be a guy that would be a great pickup. That's going to have, because like we talked about Rachaad White, you're going to probably need a back that can catch the ball out of the backfield proficiently if we're going to do anything consistent with what they did last year. So what do you think? They should draft for skill set or draft for, I guess, a role per se?
I think you roll with Chuba because, like I said, everything that you talked about, how well he played, especially down the stretch and everything, you roll with Chuba. Chuba's RB1, and I just love the growth that he's made as a runner. I would absolutely look at Will Shipley, like, you know what I mean, a guy that can root the rock. I was there, like, and it's crazy because, and I tweeted out, like, his 40 time, his first 40, I clocked him at 4.34.
I saw that. I was like, what?
And the second one was I saw it when he came across the line. He was pissed because he didn't get the start that he wanted. So it's more like around the 4.42, 4.43 on the second run. But all the scouts, like, overall, like, with that fastest time was between 4.34 and 4.36. So, like, the speed is there. he's one of the best receiving backs in terms of just catching, route running. I heard some people mention, like in the area I was in, like some of the media people, like, man, Christian McCaffrey said, let's not do that to him. Like
I,
we're not going to see another Christian McCaffrey in a very long time.
what I will say though is that suddenness he shows on like
Yes.
the angle routes and stuff that's Christian McCaffrey, like that little shimmy at the top of the route and jabbing that foot. The hands probably aren't anywhere close in my opinion. Obviously, the complexion is where people draw the line. But I think that part of his game, it's some parallels, but 9 times out of 10, it's a lazy comp when you have a white running back and they throwing Christian McCaffrey on there.
Terrible comp. I hate it. So that's why I'm like, don't put that on that kid, man. Nobody's going to be CMC. But I would absolutely add Shipley to that situation where you have Chuba. I think with Miles, I think as long as Miles isn't, and I don't think he's a good teammate from everything I've heard about him. So Miles come in, he's your RB2 behind Chuba, right? Spell Chuba. Miles can catch the ball in the backfield. He could be a home run threat himself, right? He's got footwork and the pacing and everything else like that. I think the main thing for him is just, as long as he's bought into being the RB2, you could bring Will Shipley in and allow Shipley to be that RB3 and then become the RB2, especially you pay Chuba at the end of the season, going into the next offseason, you pay him a nice little deal, nothing, groundbreaking like you said, but pay him a nice little deal. You have him and Will Shipley as RB1, RB2 with Bryce, and that's a really good skill set situation to have because they complement each other. Chuba can wear down those defenses with his physicality, downhill run style, and his speed in open field. Then when you're talking about getting into those third down situations, guys are tired of banging and throwing their shoulders into Chuba. Now you got to worry about catching the slippery but tough and gritty runner and receiver that is Will Shipley. And I think that would also give Bryce that quick outlet into the passing game as well, especially if teams if you build the receiver core up to force teams out of man and force them in the zone, that's what Bryce can really start to cook because Bryce is very good against zone. His instincts, his vision, being able to find those soft spots, anticipation, and everything is there as well. So you talking about having a guy like Will Shipley where you're running that Texas route, that angle route in the middle of the field, that linebacker is going to have to jump forward to take away Will. Then you got a backside dig coming behind him, and you just replace him with the football, right?
Yep.
So it's just those type of things. It just makes it will make Bryce's life a lot easier. Just getting those complementary skill sets, and I think that's one of the main things. I saw somebody in the chat thing is like J, is that 00K Juke? You talk about Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy reminds me a lot of because he played at Stanford. Ty Montgomery. You know what I mean? In terms of he used to be a receiver, converted to running back, explosive athlete, runs the ball well, but the ability to catch the ball as well is what's so enticing about him as well. So there's a lot of options where if running back is not a big enough need for me to say, all right, third, fourth round, I say you look at the fifth round and see what's on what's available on the board, and you can absolutely find Kamadi Vidal from Troy. Guy that can catch. He had a really good, Senior Bowl. Caught the ball well, runs hard, open field speed. There's plenty of backs in this class.
Okay. Yeah, and he's tough too. He's a tough runner. I've been watching a little bit of his, and I just got into Tracy last night. I did that I was watching on my phone when I was asleep because Josh from Underdog talked about it because of his pro day. He destroyed the numbers he put up at the combine and pro day have been crazy. But like you said, just a lack of carries and experience. And from what I'm reading, some of the stuff, some of his issues, it sounds like if he gets more reps and carries, that'll work itself out. If you haven't run the zone that many times, you feel the zone a little bit better the more and more you go. And if you've been a receiver the whole time, you're not going to have that with limited carries and limited opportunities. So I understand that. A couple more prospects. Javon Baker.
Man, route running, ball skills. He can separate, but he also can play the ball at the catch point. Good speed as well. A guy that can get down the field. Think he could be a developmental 101 winner on day 2.
Okay. Who did I have? Oh yeah, Kamari Lassiter.
Man, cover 3 corner, can play some man, play outside, play nickel. Doesn't have the best long speed. Didn't test the greatest in terms of the 40-yard dash at his pro day and everything, but tough, gritty, sticky guy that can play, play really good in coverage, guy that can play in the hip pocket. He battles at the catch point as well, fights through, knows how to turn and locate the ball. At times, it's something that's inconsistent, but I think he could be a absolute good starter for a team that wants to play more with his eyes forward, dropping off side saddle bail technique rather than heavy man to man, unless he has a safety over the top.
Okay. Yeah. And I feel so bad for him, man, because them 40 times are like, and they're not everything, but like, you can't double down on your pro day and like not run well as well.
I blame the agents, bro. I blame the agents. Whatever he's testing in practice, whatever his test 40 time is, if it's not where you want it to be, axe it. Do not run it. You know what I'm saying? Do not run it, man, because it just doesn't. There's no, like, people are going to, like, and I know a lot of trainers who train these kids, and I can tell you something. The thing that I've always heard is that, like, these kids go through so much anxiety going to the combine, because it's like, if I run faster than people expect, they don't believe it. If I run slower than people expect, now I'm trash. These kids go through so much anxiety for it, to where I'm looking at it like this: if your time is not where you want it to be, just forget it. Don't even worry about it, man. You know what? Pull a Caleb Williams, pull a Marvin Harris, and say, hey, man, watch my tape. Trust it, right? It's all about what you leave some things to question. Like, hey, you want to question my speed? Cool. Watch the tape and then you gauge it. But I'm not gonna give you a time that you ain't gonna like. Now you want to drop me down your board. Like, what we're not gonna do is that.
Right. Okay. Darius Robinson.
Man, physical, heavy-handed, long arms, alignment, versatile, can play strong side defensive end, could play some 5 tech in the odd front, can reduce down into the 2Y and 3 tech, and in specific situations on third downs, you probably could put him at the 1 and put him on the outside shade of the center and just let him be a game wrecker in the middle of a defensive line on third downs, on those money downs. Think about Justin Tuck, Matthias Kiwanuka, you know what I mean, from
you dusting them off. Yeah, you dusted off
from those Giants Super Bowl winning defensive lines. This guy has that type of versatility to play inside and out. Can set the run. Watch the Georgia tape. That's probably his best tape of the season. Absolute game wrecker, man.
Chop Robinson.
Explosive, bendy, developmental in terms of just complete hand usage and pass rush package and plan. Some stuff that he has to work on and develop, but that first step forced Michigan to not pass the ball the whole second half of that game, because those 9 pass rush snaps, he was in the backfield almost every single time early in that game. This is a young man who has a strong ceiling. I think he's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, stand-up edge rusher. But you're talking about penny third downs? Absolutely. You're going to get a guy that can get after the quarterback and do it in a faceted of ways, because he's got the ability to then cross face. His speed is going to force tackles on the island and force them to overset, which will open that inside arc.
So, and I guess it's a segue, because we talked about Chop on the timeline, and somebody brought it up. They were just like, Brian Burns wasn't that polished. He had a explosive get off as well. He wasn't that, and he had 7.5 sacks as a rookie, just off of being able to run the hoop and being able to overwhelm with speed. So that really kind of puts stuff in perspective with me, because I'm not as high on Chop as many. I'm very high on Darius. So as far as the fit with the Panthers, because I mean, first of all, do you think Chop gets out of the first?
Yes.
Okay. So, and Darius has kind of been, his Senior Bowl put him up. I know some people are kind of sour on his combine time as far as putting him on the edge, because I think that was kind of a thing for him.
Pounds. Like, I mean,
and that's what I said. If you don't feel good about him on the edge, kick him inside to the 3 on third down. But on 1 and 2, he's setting the edge. He could play the run. He could stack and shed better than most D linemen I've looked at so far. I mean, I haven't looked at all of them, but stacking and shedding is pretty much textbook what we want to do in our defense. So that's why I see the vision of it translated right away. But as far as the fit for Carolina, if both of them are on the board and they're looking edge, would you lean Chop or would you lean Darius? Knowing our needs, losing Brian, of course, and how dire pass rush is, what do you think?
Oh man, because that's tough, because I immediately was okay, Chop to replace Burns, right? That
Yeah.
first step, twitchy, explosive rusher. But then thinking about on third downs, reducing Darius inside, having him alongside Derek Brown, and it's like you're gonna make whoever's on the edge out their lives a lot easier because you're gonna
Yeah.
have to double one of these guys and put more coverage on the inside. And with Evero, mm, I would say Darius,
Okay.
and especially at 33. Darius,
Yeah.
a more complete player right now in terms of all three downs, in terms of run defense. I do think Chop is a good enough run defender, but at the same time, like he's a very good backside run defender. It's more so holding him at the point of attack right now is what's going to be big emphasis for him in terms of development, stacking, peaking, shed. But you think about where I saw G, GP KP's comment said, Darius doesn't fit too much value in the 3-4, 5 tech, that defensive end spot on rundowns. You know what I'm saying? I'm when I tell you this young man is so powerful. I remember standing right there on the end of the line at the Senior Bowl when they're doing run blocking drills, and the pop from his hands when he made contact. Talking about splitting double teams with a tight end and tackle. No, he can absolutely give you value in a 3-4, especially on those situations. And then that's when you walk him down and you slide him down a little bit further down into that 3 tech, 2 eye alongside, Derek Brown. And then you have your edge rushers. And now you have kind of a 3 edge situation where you got 2 edge rushers and then him who's reduced down. So I think he absolutely gives you value, and he's a scheme versatile dude, man. So I think for him, it will
Yeah.
be paramount, like to give you what you need in that situation.
How the hell does a dude that strong bench 21 reps? I could do 18 today. I can go tomorrow to the gym and do literally 18 reps. I'm 190 pounds. This dude has 100 pounds on me. He clearly plays way stronger than the fact that like my strength is not comparable to him just in this period. But you can see like what he does to offensive linemen, to tight ends that try to block him. And you talked about that Georgia game. How does this dude, I mean, I know the arm length is everything, whatever. How does a dude only bench 21 reps? And I know it's not indicative of his full strength, but the way he looks, bro, and just like my mind as a person that's in the gym frequently, I just couldn't wrap my mind around how he only did 21 reps as a guy at 290. It's just
I definitely think it's the arm length. I think that arm length, like he's got long arms. I think that plays such a big part in the form because it's the distance to travel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing as well. But I absolutely like, man, I'm telling you, he had some moments where it was just like, bro, this dude is just an ox out there, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And he's a guy that when you tell tackles your technique needs to be A1, because like a lot of guys have the low hand carriage, wide hands, they give up the chest. That's not a rusher if he's rushing off the edge where you want to have your hands wide and low. Because when he gets those hands fitted inside, and he got, I think it was Tyler Guyton one-on-one, where he hit him with a bull rush and immediately transitioned to a swim move. Cleared him
pull, bro.
And that closing speed is legitimate for him. I don't care about the 40. That closing speed, once he clears the tackle, he gets there in a hurry. And that's one of those guys, that quarterback's going to feel him. Because if you see him, if you don't see that hit coming, or you're going to feel that hit, and that's one of them situations where the quarterback walks back to the line of scrimmage. Yeah, we can't have that, guys. We cannot have that big dude. And it's crazy because I remember listening to him like talk about how I think he played like 310 in 2022 at D tackle, and he dropped weight because they asked him to move to the edge, and he dropped to 290, 285, and it's just like that's crazy. And to still keep that power and that first step quickness and everything else. I see a couple of comments. Someone asked about Adisa Isaac. Yeah, I like Adisa. Like I like him a lot, man. And he could play. I remember listening to Olu at the combine, Olu Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State. Yeah. He was like, Chop taught me how to like get out the blocks. Like Chop is so explosive. You got to be ready for that speed. He said Adisa taught him to be ready for anything in terms of a bag. He said his bag is so full as a pass rusher to be able to throw different hand counters, different steps, and different things like that to throw you off your spots and to manipulate you. He said he taught me how to be prepared for all the different styles and counters in the NFL. And that's what Adisa brings. He's got a good first step. He's a good athlete, But that hand usage, man, he knows how to reduce surface hitting area, clear the hands of tackles, and get into the backfield, man. I think this is a guy, I think third round, we probably see his name called, and somebody's going to get a steal for him.
The Panthers worked him out at his pro day, and I think a lot of people were talking. I mean, Chop didn't participate, so we don't really know. But the fact that we sent our outside linebacker coach there, and he kind of helped put him through the workout, should it said a lot to me. It made me actually go watch some of Diesel last night. I've only gotten through, what did I get through, Illinois or something like that, maybe something like that. That was a solid game for him. But in terms of his impact early on, is he more of a developmental guy? Like, what kind of role do you see him like? Because clearly we need help from the jump. So if we draft Adiza, we're gonna need him to be able to come in and play ball, obviously. And a lot of people, you know how they helmet, especially our fan base, they like to helmet scout. So their mind immediately goes to YGM. And YGM ended up turning into a solid run defender down the stretch. He's in San Fran now. But what do you think the role and early impact for Adiza could be?
I think he's a solid run defender. I think you guys see where he is and where you can get him once we get to training camp, and how he keeps it. Can he maintain the outside leverage, keep that outside arm, free? As a former running back myself, that's the one thing you hated to see is that edge rusher free on the outside. It's like, man, I gotta bounce this thing upside up into the defensive tackles where I want to take it outside, especially with the zone game. I think he shows good lateral footwork to be able to handle that, stay engaged, still move and close that door and that window for the running back on the perimeter. But if you're not comfortable as a day one starter because of that, he's definitely a DPR where you bring him off the bench. Fresh legs. One thing offensive linemen absolutely hate is those fresh leg edge rushes on third down, where it's like, man, I've been playing all game, and here you come off the bench. You've only played 15 snaps, and you ready to fire off and stress the hell out of me. They absolutely hate that. So I think that's where if you get him third round, and if you're not comfortable with him, as a day one starter, he comes in as that sub package type of rusher. Those third down situations, those money down situations, and really be able to stress those tackles, man, and get out to the that's a guy you say, hey, pin your ears back, big fella, and go get it. And I think he can do that for you. YGM, man, YGM, he gained weight after to play.
Yeah,
it was just it was such a tough situation for him, right? I liked YGM coming out, but when you fluctuate with weight like that because you're asked to play multiple roles and stuff like that, it slows down the development, man.
And that kind of hurt. That's the same thing that kind of hurt Derrick Brown initially. They didn't know what they wanted to do with him, and thank God he's found his way. He about to get that bag really soon and very soon. And I'm really happy for him because the fan base is down on him. But it like I said, fluctuating weight can really be tough, and then you're asking him to do a lot of different things, and the coaching changes doesn't help as well with the instability there, so you're not getting that consistency. But the way Derrick Brown, like I talked about stacking and shedding, the way I did not see him playing the 5 tech in the 3-4. I didn't know what he was going to do. I think we had a lot of questions if he would play nose because he's still the biggest D lineman we have. But I think putting him on tackles, he's quicker than they expect, so he overwhelms them with that. But at the same time, he's not small. He's 6'5". He has length, and he's bigger. He's bigger and stronger than these tackles. So they're not used to that in the run game. So he's borderline unblockable, and it allows him to be singled up to a lot of times when you put him head up with the tackle. And I think that switch by Ajiro really, I mean, he probably owed Ajiro a little bit of commission because if anybody benefited from that system, it was him because, like I said, it allowed him to free up and not be double teamed as much. Because he played up and down the line of scrimmage a lot last year. He had a good year last year, in that final year under Rule and Snow. But I think put him in that 5 just took him to the next level. Somebody laughed at me saying helmet scouts. Troy Franklin.
Explosive speed, solid run after the catch, a good route runner for what he was asked to run. Not the greatest at the catch point. Physicality can limit and slow down his process. I think he's a good wide receiver 2. He's not a wide receiver 1.
Okay. Couple super chats, and I'm gonna give you one last prospect. before I let you go. I know we've been going an hour and a half, but you've been rolling with these prospects. They in the comments talking about how you remember all these prospects off the top of your head. I'm wondering the same thing because I got my iPad with my notes over here on my prospects, so I kind of pick off those. But you giving the rundown before I can even find the next one on the list. So I really appreciate that. Somebody asked about Javon Baker. That's why I brought him up. Shout out to Jared on the super chat. My boy Panthers Prime said, "Baby, it's just I think it's just describing the emoji. That's why it looks like that. But I appreciate you on the super chat. Pimpernell, appreciate you. Always a consistent one. My boy John Barrera, shout out to you. A thumbs up on that. All right. So this prospect that I'm about to show you, I'm actually got some film. He's a little bit polarizing. You may or may not be familiar with this game, but he I don't know. I'll just let you figure it out. But he's a local kid, you know. He doesn't really get a lot of attention thus far, but he's somebody that I think you may be familiar with, you maybe not. But this guy, his name is Aaron Duncan. He put himself through a combine workout last year, you know what I'm saying? So I got to get your thoughts. He's about to run the shuttle real quick. You know, the 5.10.5. The number wasn't very impressive, but I want to get your thoughts on this.
I think that the form is good. He could have finished that a little bit stronger. I felt like he could have helped his time if he really finished that last stretch on the shuttle. But form is good. You know, a strong plant. I think that back leg stretched, you know, slid on the turf a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I would tell him maybe use grass next time. Because that turf is no joke with them pellets. But
I'm blaming my agent. I'm blaming my agent, like you said.
Yeah, the agent picked the wrong spot. But he you know, he looks. I would say drop the knees a little bit in that stance. You know, to be able to fire off a little bit, but not bad at all.
So you shaved a little bit off at the end.
Yeah.
So we working. All right. So I want to get to the next drill. On this, where am I at? Where's my 40? Am I 40 on here? Oh, this is my L drill. What do I do with the 40?
Don't tell me you cut the 40 out.
Oh, no. We got to the bench press. We got to do the bench press. So I want to show you this because I talked about Darius Robinson and we talked about the arm length. And some people try to say that, you know, Aaron Duncan, he weighed in at 190 at 5'8". But the arm length is different.
Okay, I see you.
No spot. It's the grace of God. You know what I'm saying?
Good form. All that back arching and stuff I see people doing, cheating these reps. Walk out. Yeah. Like, no, I can't stand the arch back. It drives me nuts. You know what I'm saying? Not like slamming it off your chest to bruise a sternum and all that. So I see people cheating reps. Now these are clean reps, full lockouts and everything. Let's go. Yeah. Nah, this is NFL caliber stuff.
We're getting them out right now. We got
at the top, like pushing through.
Look, man, 18.
Reps. Let's go.
I'm still washed. Now the granddaddy. Here's my numbers overall. I don't know what my RAS score is, but
we got to send this to Math Bomb to get that RAS score for you.
I ain't gonna pull up. I don't know if I should pull up my 40. That was ugly. Now my 40 is ugly. Let me see if I can pull it up actually. Nah, I ain't gonna do it. Oh, can I find it? Oh well. But I just wanted to finish up with that, man. I appreciate you really joining me, man. I appreciate the insight and the tips on my pro day. I'm doing it again this year. It's gonna happen probably sometime this week. It's a little cold here in Georgia. So people in the chat talking about the arch back calling out. But I'm going again this year. So I just wanted to do that, the promo, and let Dame chop me up a little bit on it. He was nice to me. He'll probably give me the truth. He'll probably write an article about me.
Send me the tape when you're done, brother.
Next time we get up here, I'll pull up my high school highlight tape, and we're going to go through that play-by-play and me playing running back.
Sure.
See
that's some off-season content I'm all for, bro.
So, Dame, I appreciate you joining me, man. Any final words you want to plug? Obviously, you can plug in where they can find you, but any final words about the process, wisdom you want to drop on the Panthers Nation as we navigate these turbulent times?
man, just be patient, guys. Just be patient with the process. Give Dan, I know Dan Morgan be taking some shots on the on the on the Twitter, man.
Money.
X. Give him some grace. Allow to see he's done some good things in so far through free agency, right? Making the right moves and building what you wanted to see Scott Fitterer do. Improve the O line, get some more receiver help, right? Do the things that was needed to be done. This man was kind of, we've seen that gif, was it, of Childish Gambino walking into the room and the room's on fire. He got the pizza.
Yeah.
Right? That was Dan Morgan, man. He walked into a situation where it was like legitimately fire going on. He's just trying to put the fires out, guys.
Yeah.
So give him time, let him finish, put those out. We get to the draft and see how he handles all these picks that you do have and everything, and go from there. And just understand that everything, he's get the best players available that be impact players, no matter what side of the ball they on. And yeah, just trust the process, man. Trust the process, and let's get to camp. Because at the end of the day, remember last year, you love what happened in the off season. You got the camp. Listen, guys, Dunk could tell you we talked. I told him straight up after like the first couple of days of practice. I'm talking to him and Monty. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm out on this. This is gonna be bad. I don't like what I see. I was like, I do not like what I see at all. Simply because of what Frank Reich was doing. It was so easy to get a gauge for the defense was getting up to speed quickly and knowing where the ball was going. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be a rough year if they don't fix some things and hit on some things. So just be patient, man. I think they're heading. I think the Panthers are heading in the right direction. I love what they've done through free agency, having these like basically 4 top 101 picks. I think with this class, whether it's receiver, defensive end, either way, you have ample opportunity to build up this team and just get this team to a more competitive place heading into 2024. And then that's when you gear for having more money in 2025 offseason. And that's that third year of Bryce where you say, all right, let's go all out and attack and make sure we build this thing up and give Bryce everything he needs. And I think if you do that, man, I think you guys are heading on the right path to do that. And again, guys, Panthers fans, tap in with my boy Dunk, man. Subscribe, tap in with the content is always A1. And when he breaks down film, tap into that, man. You know what I mean? I know that a lot of people don't just follow narratives, dog. Absolutely jump in, learn from somebody who knows the game. You know what I'm saying? And understand what's going on, whether it's a prospect he's breaking down, a free agent he's breaking down. Tap into it because it makes you don't sound smart getting on Twitter and saying stuff that's not educated. You know what I mean? When you're not studying. So get into the tape, man. See what these guys really bring to the table, and don't follow these narratives. Don't follow that this guy can't run this route. This guy can't do this. Watch the tape and see what they actually can do and learn for yourself. Like Dunk said, we all respect Steve Smith, right? But we trust our own evaluation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, I don't, I got scouts in the league. I call them and talk. But I tell you right now, one of my boys, I ain't gonna tell you what team he works for, but he was heavy on the Will Levis. He was heavy on the Will Levis with me. We went back and forth for months, and I was like, "Listen, bro, we understood where each other was coming from, but at the end of the day, I trust my evaluation, and he trusted his. You know what I'm saying? So get into the people who do content for y'all, man. Tap in, support those people, dog, because that's what matters, man. You gotta support each other, and stop arguing on Twitter, please. Stop going cut it out, man.
You talking to me a little bit too. Talking to me a little bit there too.
Monty, I'm talking to you, Monty. Stop arguing with people. That's my dog, bro. You feel me? So it's all good, man. I appreciate everybody that tapped in with us tonight, man. Had a good time answering questions, everything like that. Listen, you already follow me on X, Twitter, whatever Elon calls it these days, DP_NFL. I do co-host the Locked On NFL Draft podcast 5 days a week. Go tap in with that on Apple Podcast. Subscribe to it. Hit the automatic downloads. We actually just broke down Adonai Mitchell and Keon Coleman for tomorrow's episode, and did some stock up, stock down, stuff like that. So just tap into that, and then of course scouting reports. Everything is already uploaded at the Draft Network. I'm getting close to over 100 on my own. And some of my guys went back to school after I already knocked out their report. So I got some that's just waiting for next year for the summer. So yeah,
100?
man. NFL draft, NFL.
100?
Yeah. I'm over
Hold on,
that.
man. Hold on.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
still got a couple more weeks. Still got a couple more
uh,
weeks.
okay, because I mean, I done 40, and I thought I was
Yeah,
proud of
I'm
myself,
over
and
that.
I know I'm not doing in depth as you, because you hit me with a couple lines. We were going back on Twitter about Chop about looking at the context. I'm like, dang, I didn't really look at it like that. So
Yeah,
I'll be learning.
I just everything. I tried because like I was wondering. I was like, because his production dropped, and I was like, hold on, man. And I went and looked, and I was like, I remember this now. Like the scheme, like the way things went for them. Teams were like their offense was terrible. They couldn't score, couldn't
Yeah,
keep the defense off the field, couldn't stay within in reach a lot of times. And then it's like, yeah, he had like 120 less pass rush snaps. So it's like that ability to he had to run defend more than he was able to get after the quarterback. So that stuff played a part. But everything you said too was true. Like he's still raw from a true pass rush standpoint in
yeah,
terms of his hands and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, man, it's we in the thick of this thing now. We in the
yeah.
weeds, and I mean, where now I'm watching fifth and sixth round guys, and it's like okay, it's not the funnest thing, but you got to do it.
Yeah, and I try to skip around and I find this random dudes because I ended up watching Taj Washington during the season last year, and he's actually a fun watch.
He
And
is, he
that
is.
that that let me know I was never going to watch Caleb, because we don't have to look at quarterbacks anywhere. I was never
Yeah,
going to watch any Caleb Williams tape because it's the longest tape ever. It's so
yes,
annoying to see him just run around all day. It's like I haven't really fully got through a Brendan Rice eval either because it's so tough. Watching Caleb Williams tape, and no slight to him because he's going to be phenomenal. I think it'll be
yeah.
good and he'll do good things in Chicago. But just the evaluation process, I'm not even looking at quarterbacks this year at all. I'm glad I don't have to. But regardless,
Y'all
Dan,
upset. Y'all upset.
yeah. And a lot of people there, I guess, could you give a nugget on how people should feel about Bryce? Any like a dose of optimism for the skeptics as far as like how he can improve? Because a lot of people think the book is written on him. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
been a year and a terrible circumstance, but just a quick nugget on that too. And I ain't gonna hold you too much longer.
Nah, the book isn't written until it's written. You know what I mean? This year one was just a chapter. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta you don't read the first chapter of a book in real life and be like, oh, that's the plot. You know what I mean? Like that's front to back, cover to cover. No, I think he still has places to grow, room to grow with like handling and getting when pressure is there, getting out of trouble, which he started to show, especially late in the year. The Bryce Young we saw at Alabama using his legs at times, and you want to see him activate that a lot quicker. I think the game speed, he was a rookie. The game speed got to him, but now you expect the game to slow down for him. Again, improved interior offensive line. Got to get a center, whether that's Austin Corbett or drafting one of these centers in the 2024 NFL draft. Get a solidified center that can be the quarterback of the offensive line, and hope and pray that Icky takes that step in this scheme to get back to the back end of his rookie year where he was playing
Yeah,
really good ball. You know what I'm saying? So I think with Bryce, it's just for him just playing confident ball. Get back out there to being him. Now he has quick winners. Get the ball out quick. Get into that rhythm early, right? I always compare. People don't like to compare sports. I always compare football and basketball. Quarterbacks are like offensive, like basketball players. Sometimes you don't start games out shooting threes, right? You get to the cup. You get to the
yeah,
layup line. You want to see the rim get bigger. You want to see the basketball goal get bigger. So then when you start shooting the threes, now you're in rhythm. Now you're
yeah,
you're rolling. It's the same thing. Get him into rhythm. Call the plays and the offense for him that suits him, not what suits the scheme. What suits Bryce? And I felt like that was a big part of what Frank Reich messed up at. And he was his own worst enemy. So I think with Bryce just continue to get that timing and rhythm down in the NFL, work on the footwork. His footwork is always been a problem for me. I know he's
yeah,
going to be toesy because of his height, but he's got to be. I'm not going to call it lazy or lackadaisical. It's just a little too patient in his drop. You got to
yeah,
get to your landmark, get to the top of your drop, and get there quickly. So now you can get your hips point, you can get your hips turned, and your lead foot turned to your target, and be able to get the ball to these guys effectively and efficiently. I think Bryce, he was a first round pick and one of the best quarterbacks in college football for a reason. This is a good
yeah,
player. Just now get the weapons. I think the offensive line should be better. And now I really like what Dave Canales, and what I love about Dave Canales, and he said is that I don't just run the same game plan. I'm not
mhm,
going to just run the ball 30 times a game. I'm going to do whatever the defense struggles with. So if they struggle to stop the run, we're going to hammer it. If they
yeah,
struggle to stop the pass, we're going to throw it. And that's the type of offensive-minded coach you want, a guy that knows how to pick apart the weaknesses of a defense. And having a guy like that at the helm to help Bryce is going to be a big thing for him going into the year 2.
Yeah, I mean, he seems very practical. Like his approach, it's not anything complicated. It gives that Pete Carroll vibes. Like, this is what we're gonna do. This is what the numbers say. Analytics say you play better when the ball comes out in 2.7. We're gonna try to tailor our offense to that. If they give us this, we're gonna try to have answers for whatever the defense has. Kind of like what you're saying. He's very practical, man. Very straightforward. He's not some Ben Johnson wizard like that, but you don't need that necessarily. Sometimes it's just about putting the guys that you have in the best position for them to succeed. And we saw time and time again that wasn't the case last year with Frank. And it was just frustrating. But again, Dame, bro, you the man. They in the chat talking about you need to be a regular on here. I know your time is precious, so I ain't gonna make no promises, but it would be my request as well that you stay pretty regular on this channel as well, because if you don't know, I respect your game, what you do. Sure. You a big follow for me. I mean, you're not a direct mentor of me, but I really look up to you. I read your reports. When I look at my film, I take my notes, comparing to yours. I compare it to your guy Keith as well on the Draft Network, and just see like it's reassurance for me that I'm on the right track and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you guys, what you guys are doing, and you guys make sure you check on Locked On Draft. They really need more love, because what they talk about, the topics they talk about, how often they bring it in the draft. If you love the draft, you have to watch it. I watch it on the regular, and I love their conversations. I love what they get into, and they really concise at that. And it's just a lot to take in. You can learn a lot, and I learned a lot from it, because the draft is something I'm diving into. But Dame, again, you the man. One time for you.
Appreciate you, bro.
On this. Somebody said in the chat said go brush that Geechee off your that Geechee accent.
Chill out, dog. What are we doing right now? What are we doing? Thought we was family out here. Hey, come on, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm comfortable. I don't gotta. Nah. You know what I mean?
But regardless, y'all, I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. There's been another time, but until next Tuesday, y'all stay tuned. We ain't no telling who gonna have next week as a guest. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.